My aunt said, "Family potluck for New Year's. Everyone brings something." I spent $200 on catering. Everyone else brought store-bought chips. They took all my food home and said, "Thanks for hosting." I was never the host. "Hey, Reddit, you need to host the New Year's potluck this year," my aunt said, her tone leaving no room for argument as she cornered me in the kitchen during our family's Christmas Eve gathering. I froze, the festive chatter around us fading into a dull roar, my stomach twisting like I'd just swallowed a lump of coal. She wasn't asking, she was declaring it, and in that moment, I felt the weight of every unspoken expectation crash down, turning my casual holiday into a battlefield where I was suddenly the unwilling general. If I backed out now, I'd be the family screw-up again, the one who couldn't step up, and that label had already cost me too much. Strained ties with cousins who saw me as unreliable, a rift with my parents who hinted at disappointment in every conversation. Hosting meant risking my savings, my sanity, and maybe even my place in this dysfunctional web we called family, where one wrong move could exile me for good. The potluck wasn't just a meal. It was a test I couldn't afford to fail, or I'd lose the fragile respect I'd been clawing back for years. I'm 26, single, and living in a cramped apartment on the outskirts of town, scraping by as a freelance graphic designer. My family, a sprawling mess of aunts, uncles, cousins, and in-laws, gathers like clockwork for holidays, but I'm usually the one on the periphery, dodging the spotlight. This year, though, my aunt's words shoved me right into it. I stared at her, my mind racing. "Why me?" I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. She waved a hand dismissively, her eyes scanning the room as if the decision was already etched in stone. "You're the youngest adult now, and it's your turn. Everyone brings something. Keep it simple. We'll all pitch in." Pitch in? That was code for you do the heavy lifting, and I knew it. But arguing with her was like wrestling a boulder uphill. She always won, and the fallout lingered. I nodded reluctantly, forcing a smile. "Fine, I'll handle it." As soon as the words left my mouth, regret hit me like a freight train. Hosting a potluck for 20-plus people? On New Year's Eve? I had zero experience, and my budget was tight after splurging on gifts. But backing down now would make me look weak, and in my family, weakness was a death sentence. The next few days blurred into a frenzy. I scoured recipes online, dreaming up a spread that would impress. Roasted turkey sliders, stuffed mushrooms, a charcuterie board with cheeses and fruits, and a decadent chocolate cake for dessert. Simple, right? Wrong. Groceries alone cost me $150, and then I factored in the catering platters from a local service to make it look professional, another $50. Total, $200. I justified it as an investment in family harmony, telling myself it'd be worth it to finally earn some grudging respect. New Year's Eve arrived, and my apartment was transformed. I'd borrowed folding chairs and tables from a neighbor, strung up cheap string lights, and even dusted off my old speaker for some upbeat tunes. The place smelled like heaven, garlic, herbs, and fresh bread. I stood by the door, heart pounding, as the first guests trickled in. My cousin Jake arrived first, clutching a bag of store-bought tortilla chips. "Hey, man, brought these," he said, tossing them onto the counter like it was no big deal. I forced a grin. "Cool, thanks." But inside, a knot tightened. "Chips? For a potluck?" Next came my uncle, with a plastic container of salsa. "Store-bought, but it's good," he chuckled, slapping me on the back. "Thanks for hosting, kid. This is gonna be great." Hosting? I hadn't planned on that label, but there it was, slapped on me like a name tag. By the time everyone arrived, the counter was a graveyard of mediocrity. A few bags of pretzels, some dip from a jar, and one sad-looking veggie platter that looked like it had been assembled in a hurry. My aunt swept in last, carrying a tray of cheese puffs. "Oh, look at this spread," she exclaimed, her eyes widening at my catering platters. "You went all out." Good boy. I wanted to scream. All out. I'd spent a fortune, and they showed up with junk food. But I bit my tongue, playing the gracious host. Dig in, everyone. Help yourselves. The evening unfolded in a haze of forced cheer. People milled about, plates in hand, piling on my food. These sliders are amazing, my cousin Lisa said, grabbing seconds. Did you make them yourself? I nodded, pride flickering despite the sting. Yeah, it took all day. My aunt hovered nearby, directing traffic. Pass the mushrooms, dear. And save some cake for later. Later? They were devouring everything like locusts. I watched as plates emptied, my carefully prepared dishes vanishing into hungry mouths. No one touched the chips or pretzels much. They were just fillers, apparently. As the night wore on, the conversation turned to family gossip. My uncle regaled everyone with stories of his latest fishing trip, while my cousins debated sports teams. I tried to join in, but every time I opened my mouth, someone interrupted with a question about the food. Where'd you get this cheese? Is there more stuffing? By 10 p.m., the platters were half empty, and I started feeling the pinch. I'd planned for leftovers, maybe enough to last me a week. But people were taking seconds, thirds. My aunt's husband even asked if he could box some up. For the kids tomorrow, he said casually. Sure, I replied, my voice tight. Inside, I was seething. This wasn't a potluck. It was a raid on my wallet and effort. The real blow came when dessert rolled around. I'd baked that chocolate cake from scratch, layering it with ganache and fresh berries. It was my masterpiece. Wow, this is incredible. My cousin Emily gushed, cutting herself a huge slice. You should open a bakery. Thanks, I muttered, but the compliment felt hollow. They were all eating like it was their last meal, and I hadn't even had a proper bite yet. As midnight approached, the energy shifted. People started packing up, and that's when the looting began. My aunt approached me, a plastic container in hand. Mind if I take some of these leftovers home? The family will love them. I hesitated. Sure, but I was hoping to have some for myself. She laughed. Oh, come on, you can always make more. Thanks for hosting such a wonderful evening. Hosting. There it was again, that word, like a brand on my forehead. One by one, they boxed up portions. My uncle took half the sliders. Jake grabbed the remaining mushrooms. Lisa scooped up cake slices. Even the store-bought chips went untouched, left on the counter like forgotten relics. By the time they left, my fridge was bare, and my apartment looked like a war zone. Crumbs everywhere, empty platters stacked in the sink. Thanks for everything, they called out as they filed through the door, hugging me goodbye. Happy New Year. I stood there, numb, the door clicking shut behind the last of them. The silence was deafening. I'd spent $200, slaved for days, and ended up with nothing but dirty dishes and a hollow feeling in my chest. Was this what family was? Taking and taking, without a thought for the giver? The resentment bubbled up from years of similar slights. It started when I was a kid, maybe 12, and my parents divorced. My mom leaned on me too much, making me the responsible one while my siblings goofed off. I'd cook dinners, clean up, all to keep the peace. Then, when I moved out for college, my aunt swooped in, turning my independence into a revolving door for family favors. Can you watch the kids? Help with the move? I'd say yes every time, hoping it'd build bridges. But it never did. Instead, it painted me as the go-to guy, the one who never said no. Last summer, it hit a peak. My cousin's wedding. I offered to cater the rehearsal dinner as a gift. Spent $300 on it, only for the family to rave about how easy it was, then ghost me for months. No thank you note, no invite to the after party. Just silence. I told myself it was fine, that family sticks together. But deep down, it chipped away at me, making me question if I was just a convenience, not a real part of the group. Now, staring at the empty platters, that old wound reopened. I'd poured my heart into this, thinking it'd change things, prove I was capable, maybe even appreciated. But no, they saw me as the host, the provider, not the equal. And the worst part? I'd let them. Again. The next morning, New Year's Day, I woke up groggy and angry. My phone buzzed with group texts. Thanks again for the amazing potluck. Best one yet. I typed back a polite glad you enjoyed, but inside, I was done. No more playing the martyr. I called my aunt that afternoon, my voice steady. Hey, about last night. She cut me off. Oh, it was perfect. Everyone loved your food. You're such a natural host. I'm not the host, I said, the words tumbling out. I didn't volunteer for that. You pushed it on me, and everyone else showed up with chips while I spent $200 on catering. Then you all took my food home like it was yours. There was a pause. What? We all brought something. And you did a great job. Don't be ungrateful. Ungrateful? I laughed bitterly. I worked my ass off, and you treated it like a buffet. I'm not doing this again. She huffed. Fine, be that way. But family helps each other out. Helps? Or takes? I hung up, my hands shaking. It felt good, liberating even. But I knew the fallout was coming. Awkward family dinners, whispered judgments. Maybe I'd lose some ties. But for the first time, I didn't care. I'd rather be alone than used. Weeks passed, and the drama simmered. My cousins texted, asking why I was mad. I explained calmly, but they brushed it off. It was just a potluck, dude. Chill. Chill. I'd invested time, money, and emotion, and they acted like it was nothing. One evening, I ran into my uncle at the grocery store. He cornered me by the produce aisle. Heard you had a beef with your aunt. What's the deal? I sighed, setting down a bag of apples. I spent a ton on that potluck, and everyone treated it like a free-for-all. Took my food home without a second thought. He chuckled. Come on, it's family. We share. Share? I didn't get to share. I got robbed. The word hung there, and his smile faded. Robbed? That's harsh. We thank you. Thanks don't pay bills, I shot back. Or refill my fridge. He shook his head. You're overreacting. Next time, just say no. Next time? There wouldn't be a next time. I walked away, feeling lighter but lonelier. Family was supposed to be support, not a drain. I'd learned that the hard way. Months later, at Easter, the family gathered again. My aunt tried to rope me into hosting brunch. Your turn, she said, winking. I smiled politely. No thanks. I'm busy. Her face fell. But family. Family respects boundaries, I replied, and walked away. It stung, watching them from afar, but I was done being the doormat. The potluck had been my breaking point, a wake-up call that some ties needed cutting to survive. In the end, I kept the receipts from that night as a reminder. $200 down the drain, but the lesson? Priceless. Family isn't about who hosts or who brings chips. It's about give and take, not just take. And if they can't see that, maybe they're not the family I need. But let's rewind a bit. That New Year's Eve wasn't just about the food. It was a microcosm of every family gathering I'd endured. As people arrived, I tried to steer the conversation away from my efforts. So how's work? I asked Jake, hoping to deflect. Same old, he replied, munching on a slider. These are killer, by the way. You should cater for real. I nodded, but the compliment felt transactional. Like, good job, now keep doing it. My cousin Lisa pulled me aside later. Hey, thanks for this. It's nice having everyone together. She paused, then added, You know, Mom said you were stressing about it. You okay? Stressing? Understatement. Yeah, just wanted it to be good, I said, forcing a laugh. She patted my arm. It is. You're the best host. Host. Again. I wanted to correct her, but what was the point? The night was in full swing, and I was already exhausted. As the clock ticked toward midnight, the mood got festive. We counted down, popped cheap champagne I'd bought, and toasted the new year. To family, my uncle bellowed, clinking glasses. To family, I echoed, but my heart wasn't in it. They were toasting me indirectly for providing the stage. When the packing began, I watched helplessly. My aunt's husband loaded up a cooler with leftovers. This'll feed the grandkids, he said cheerfully. Yeah, enjoy, I replied, my voice hollow. It wasn't just food. It was my effort, my money, my time. Even my cousin Emily, who I'd always gotten along with, took a slice of cake. For later, she winked. "You're a lifesaver." Lifesaver? I felt more like a sucker. By the end, the only thing left was a half bag of those store-bought chips and a smear of dip. I'd been reduced to a footnote in their feast. The door closed, and I slumped against it. The apartment felt empty, not just of people, but of purpose. I'd wanted to belong, to be seen as the guy who could pull off something big. Instead, I was the guy who got taken advantage of. Digging deeper, this pattern went back further than I cared to admit. When I was 18, fresh out of high school, my family threw me a graduation party. I offered to grill burgers for everyone, bought the best meat, marinated it all night. Cost me $100. They showed up, ate, and left the cleanup to me. "Thanks, champ," my dad said, clapping me on the back. No one helped wash dishes or even said much beyond that. Then, during college breaks, I'd crash at my aunt's, and she'd ask me to babysit for free. "Your family," she'd say. I'd do it, thinking it built goodwill. But goodwill for what? So they could ask more? The wedding last summer was the tipping point before the potluck. I'd volunteered to cater, thinking it'd make me the hero. Instead, my cousins joked about how easy it was for me, since I had the time. Time I didn't have, I'd skipped freelance gigs to do it. And the thank you? A generic group text weeks later. Now, reflecting on it all, I saw the thread. I was the enabler. Saying yes kept me in the circle, but it also kept me on the outside, always giving, never receiving. The potluck was the straw that broke it. The aftermath wasn't immediate drama. It simmered. A week later, my phone rang. It was my cousin Jake. "Dude, what's up? Aunt says you're pissed about the potluck." I took a deep breath. Not pissed, just disappointed. I put in real effort, and it felt one-sided. He laughed. "Come on, it was fun. We all appreciated it." Appreciated how? By taking everything home. There was a pause. "Okay, maybe we overdid it. But your family. We share stuff." "Share implies mutual," I said. I didn't get anything back. He sighed. "Fine, I'll buy you lunch or something. Make it up." It was a gesture, but it felt like a band-aid on a gunshot. I declined politely. "No need. Just don't expect me to host again." "Fair," he said, and hung up. Other calls followed. My cousin Lisa texted, "Sorry if it sucked. Love you." My uncle sent a meme about family being weird, but none addressed the core, the imbalance. I started therapy around then, not because of the potluck, but because it highlighted bigger issues. The therapist asked about boundaries, and I realized I'd never set any. Family was this amorphous blob that consumed without question. Easter came, and as I said no to hosting, my aunt's eyes narrowed. "You're really going to hold a grudge over a potluck?" "It's not a grudge," I replied. "It's self-preservation." She huffed and walked away. The rest of the day, I sat on the sidelines, watching them laugh and eat store-bought pies. It hurt, but less than before. I was reclaiming my space. Looking back, I think the root was my parents' divorce. Mom relied on me emotionally, turning me into this strong one. Dad was absent, so I filled gaps. It made me a people pleaser, always saying yes to avoid conflict. But in family, conflict is inevitable, and avoiding it just delayed the pain. The potluck forced me to confront it. I wasn't the host. I was the victim of their expectations. And that shift, it changed everything. In the months after, I focused on my life. Picked up more freelance work, dated a bit, built a circle of friends who didn't treat me like a convenience. Family texts dwindled, but when they did come, they were more genuine. Maybe they learned something too, or maybe not, but I did, and that's what mattered. To wrap it up, that New Year's potluck wasn't just a bad night. It was a catalyst. I spent $200, yes, but the real cost was the illusion of belonging. They brought chips, I brought my soul. And in the end, they took it all home, thanking me for the ride. But now, I'm done riding. I'm driving my own path, boundaries intact. Family, it's not about potlucks or hosting. It's about respect. And if they can't give that, I'll find it elsewhere.